We are winning the war on abortion as Planned Parenthoods are shutting down across the country. They are losing assets and money as fewer women seek health care. Due not only to the fact that people are waking up to their evils, but all the people who oppose abortion are outpopulating those who support it. Not to take this lying down, Planned Parenthood is expanding its business model to provide hormone therapy. Even though the transgender community represents about 0.5% of the total population. This also goes without mentioning that those who undergo transition are more likely to commit suicide. Planned Parenthood is signing death warrants. Plain and simple. In addition to cutting their funding, President Trump continues to defend women from dangerous abortions. The Trump administration, along with a few others, is trying to get the Supreme Court to hear a case regarding a Louisiana law that demands that abortion facilities admit women to hospitals with life-threatening emergencies. If you have not seen Unplanned, you really should. In the movie, one of the most important moments is a woman that is dying because an abortion went wrong, but the head of the facility refuses to call an ambulance since that would make the clinic look bad. We keep hearing the mantra of safe, legal, and rare from liberals. Yet, they do not want it rare, and they clearly do not want it to be safe. Not to mention, it has never been safe since it always ends a life. When President Trump was first running for office, it was falsely reported that Pope Francis endorsed his candidacy. I am not going to deny that Pope Francis has many political views that differ from my own, but they are not a matter of theology. A high school student asked Pope Francis what the best thing to say to bring an atheist to Christ was. According to the falsified report, Pope Francis told the student not to convert the non-believer. In context, he uses the phrase proselytize, meaning to convert by force. Pope Francis then went on to say that we need to lead by example. The early church cared for the poor and taking the children that were abandoned out on the streets into their homes. By their actions, more people came to Christ than by argumentation. Honestly, what does it accomplish to lie about what Pope Francis said? Nick Sandmann was viciously attacked by CNN with how he and his fellow Covington Catholic classmates mocked a Native American elder. Remember, they had to make up a controversy to cover up the fact that the number of people there to support abortion was abysmally small, whereas the March for Life drew scores of people. CNN did settle the defamation suit, but the suits against NBC, The Washington Post, and others are still pending. The $275 million lawsuit is officially settled. That kid could go to any college of his choice, although I hope that he uses the rest wisely. Even if the other outlets win, this serves as a warning to media outlets that they should not just defame citizens to score political points. The Golden Globes are just like any other Hollywood award show. It is a bunch of billionaires giving each other awards. Normally, it is not even worth a listen to because the court jesters decide to use it as an opportunity to preach to everyone else. Highlights include the opening by Ricky Gervais, who warned them not to try to educate on politics because they spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. The most troubling part of the night, Michelle Williams, who said that she would not have had her career had she not exercised a woman's right to choose. In other words, she sacrificed her child so that she could have the life she wanted. I may just be an uncle, but it is the job of a parent to put their life on hold for the sake of their child, not the other way around. The Iraqi parliament has voted to expel all U.S. troops from their country. I say it is high time that all of our troops come home and we stay out of countries where we are not wanted. We did not go into these countries to find non-existent weapons of mass destruction. We went in there to secure oil for personal ends and those of the politically connected. Now that we are energy independent by drilling for oil right here, we do not have a reason to be there. It is high time that we bring our boys home. As soon as the terrorist responsible for killing countless Americans was off the plane, he was killed by a drone. That should be the end of it, and we should be celebrating that a terrorist is dead. Right? Apparently not. The liberal media is so upset that Trump killed a foreign leader without an authorization of war. He attacked our boys and ordered their deaths. He is as much an enemy combatant as the people who build IEDs. Intercepted chatter from these terrorist networks shows that they are sending their leadership into hiding or getting them out of the country. Why? They are realizing that the United States now has a president that will not take attacks on our troops sitting down. Speaking of the previous administration, Obama did make the attacks possible.
Iran's hostilities substantially increased after the foolish Iran nuclear deal was signed in 2013, and they were given $150 billion, not to mention $1.8 billion in cash. Instead of saying thank you to the United States, they chanted death to America. In fact, they chanted death to America the day the agreement was signed. Then Iran went on a terror spree, funded by the money from the deal, and created hell in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The missiles fired last night at us and our allies were paid for with the funds made available by the last administration.
Apparently, President Obama can take credit for all of the successes of President Trump, but President Trump cannot blame the previous administration for funding terrorists. Meanwhile, in response to our actions, the Iranian government decided to shoot multiple missiles at our bases. That is not what I want to talk about here. At the same time, a Ukrainian plane crashed to the ground over Iran, but the Iranians refused to let in an investigation. Officially, it was an engine malfunction. If it was by missile, these are civilian lives that were lost at the hand of President Obama's nuclear deal. Israel, for whatever reason, has missiles raining down on civilian populations every day. Even when they are forced to retaliate, Hamas and other terrorist groups decide to place the missile launchers next to or on schools and hospitals. They can either blame Israel for killing innocent civilians or just keep launching missiles with impunity. Their Iron Dome is designed to shoot down incoming missiles before they hit civilian targets. The main drawback is that missiles are expensive. Now Israel is trying to use lasers to do the same thing. If you can shoot down the missile with a high-powered laser and get the same job done, everyone wins. Presently, the Iron Dome calculates the cost based on whether the missile will hit a civilian area, but now they can just shoot down every single missile. If successful, it will be even less effective to fire missiles because Israel can shoot down every one. Liberals have been making predictions about how the world is going to end for the better half of a century, starting with global cooling. In the 1960s and 70s, we were warned of a new ice age, but when that did not pan out, it was changed to global warming. Since the oceans are not rising and the glaciers are not melting as they should, the term was changed again to climate change. This is the name that has remained because it can mean anything. Glacier National Park in Montana decided to take down all of its signs saying that glaciers will be gone by 2020. This will not be the last instance of predictions failing. If a weatherman regularly predicted that we would have beautiful, cool days with lots of snow, but it was consistently 110 degrees, he would never be trusted again. Not so with the climate experts. Take the brush fires in Australia. When I was talking with a friend about it, the first thing that he talked about was how much additional carbon was in the atmosphere. Nothing about property destruction or lives lost, just how there was more carbon emitted in 1 week than the country normally produces in a year. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but that is just my opinion.